Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Insight. I am Barrister Jonathan. Today, inhabitants of the predominantly English-speaking northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon are caught in between the Red Sea and the fire, with injunctions coming from separatist fighters on one hand and government authorities on the other hand, and failure to respect the instructions often lead to devastating and even deadly consequences. Several taxis vehicles have been set ablaze in the past days in the town of Bamenda in the northwest region of the country because they failed to respect an injunction from separatist fighters, a no circulation injunction that came as a result of a decision taken by the senior division officer of the Mesam division banning the circulation of commercial motorbikes in the town of Bamenda from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and a decision taken within the context of government's efforts to curb separatist activities. And this decision came after a grenade was thrown in a beer parlor that led to several persons, more than 40 being wounded and over 2 killed in that incident. Now the population are caught in this very difficult situation. We are looking at this in this edition of The Inside, and we are also looking at the suffering conditions, the difficult, precarious conditions in which many persons who are now IDPs, internally displaced persons, forced out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions by violence and insecurity to seek refuge here in Douala and other parts of the country. We'll be looking at this also today. Stay with us and meet our guest in some few seconds. Our guest today is Barrister TAMFU Richard. He is a member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations, a human rights and peace advocate. Barrister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mr. Babila, and I am honored by your invitation for me to be on your program. It's always a pleasure for me to be on your platform, and I'm delighted to be here, and I hope that I'll be able to dissect the topics you just highlighted.
Right, before we start discussing, analyzing the situation on ground, I want us to take a listen to Gaby AMBO. He is a civil society leader based in the town of Bamenda, and he paints northwest region, and that can be extrapolated to the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. Take a listen to Gaby AMBO.
The city of Bamenda, it's seemingly calm but tense because of all we've observed for the past days, cognizant of the fact that there have been some incidences and many poor have been scared, and though we're already gradually getting accustomed to the kind of things that happen, the gunshots, sporadic gunshots are happening. I think the people of Bamenda are resilient on ground and trying to see how to cope, to put in place a coping mechanism actually that carries them through. And what they do on ground, cognizant of the fact that there are lots of challenges. We have gunshots from left and right, front and back, and even at your top, you find these challenging situations. Bamenda town is that kind of resilient town, a kind of town that definitely has the people who have their feet on ground, and actually believe in the life within their city. And in spite of all the challenges, most will stay close and stay strong to the principle on ground. They will stay strong to the things they do on ground, and to ensure that they are able to leverage actions in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the insecurity that rises by the day, and at times it slows down to give a picture of normalcy, when in the next few seconds you get some responses coming from both protagonist ends in that circumstance. So it's actually a town that is, the people are gradually accepting and being able to learning a method in which they can actually cope with respect to the things actually that they are doing on ground, aside the ongoing protracted armed conflict that has bedeviled the community of the Northwest, and most especially Bamenda as a whole in the circumstance. So we have that as a concern for the Bamenda mine.
Yeah, taxi drivers in Bamenda now seem to be a target, and the heavy-duty trucks as well, with respect to the ongoing armed conflict, the protracted armed conflict that has bedeviled the Northwest and Southwest for quite a while now, close to 80 years now. So of recent, we've had a series of attacks, and most especially this hinges on taxi owners, and then heavy-duty trucks that happened a few days back. Yesterday, the 18th of June 2024, we witnessed a scene wherein a taxi was burnt, and then the proprietor happened to have been a disabled person who had been using that as his main source of income. This makes the situation on ground quite challenging and really difficult to understand, cognizant of the fact that, people need to survive, people need to live, and be able to work on getting issues of their families taken care of. If the struggle keeps going on the way it's going, it raises quite a lot of challenges on ground, most especially here in Bamenda. And we are just like saying that it does not, in a sense, to me, mean that the fight for independence is uncalled for or is definitely doubtful, but that the methodology and the approach used on ground is quite challenging, because if you have to start killing your own and doing the obnoxious things and doing killing, abductions, and you can name the list, and burning of people's properties, it makes it challenging. I don't think that's what this struggle is all about, and I think the struggle actually is genuine and actually needs focus, needs attention to the right authorities, which is a purely political issues that needs that address. Aside all of these killings and all these attacks, I suppose the right issues definitely need to be addressed by the key stakeholders on ground.
So that's the situation on ground as seen through the lenses of Gaby AMBO, civil society leader based in the Northwest Regional Capital, Bamenda. Barrister TAMFU, Richard, what's your take on the prevailing situation in those two regions today?
Yeah, it is really saddening to listen to what people are living for 8 years now, and when I try to imagine myself in that kind of a situation, I really see that it's unbearable, and I think where it's more than time for us to put an end to this unnecessary suffering that is being inflicted on citizens. Not only the citizens, we have soldiers who have lost their lives, we have young boys and girls who were bundled or forced to take up arms, and today we cannot count the deaths that have been recorded. Today we cannot count the suffering, the hardship that it has caused to so many of us. I know that I, for one, am suffering because for years now I've not been able to go to my village, and I know several other persons are in the same situation. We have had people who have been displaced from their usual abode, and today it is taking a phase where the population is caught, like you said, in the middle of a deep sea, where you have on the one side the administration who is trying its efforts to see how they fight the separatists, maybe by giving some injunctions, like for example that there will not be circulations of motorbikes. That's another way of inflicting harm on the population. And you have on another side maybe separatists who are saying that, okay, since the government have decided to go this measure, we too, we are maybe banning taxis from circulating, or maybe changing the colors of the taxis. You see that we are all in a confused state. You wonder to know whether this country is still being governed, because for 8 years now I have the weakness to believe that our country has not actually, or the leadership of this country has not understood exactly how to go about the Anglophone crisis. And today the population is abandoned to itself. We don't know where to go, because if you don't respect, for example, the injunctions given by the administrative authorities, you face the bullets of the separatists. If you decide to go against the injunctions of the separatists, maybe you force maybe harassment from the administration. Maybe if you decide to seal your shop, for example, because you want to respect, maybe goes down, you see the administration coming to tell you, no, if you leave your shop sealed, you pay some fines and you have to open it. So in a nutshell, the persons who are paying the highest price of this crisis are the civilian population, and somebody like me, I only have my eyes to cry, because I still believed that in a country like ours, we are not supposed to live this, when we know that a country like ours has a president of the republic who has taken a mandate, or who has sworn to before the Cameroonian people that he is going to safeguard their security, their properties, and make sure that they are able to live harmoniously. But today we have the impression that the people are left to themselves, and they actually do not know where to go to, because administratively it's a problem, the separatists is a problem, so they are left to their own.
Now, if we want to focus specifically on the case of taxi drivers who are now targets in the town of Bamenda, after the senior division officer decided that commercial motorbikes should not circulate between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. And I say it again that it is a measure that is intended to limit separatist activities. Why not stop separatist activities? Because it came after a grenade was thrown in a bar, and at least 40 persons were wounded, 2 others died because of that incident. So that decision was taken to curb separatist activities who often use motorbikes to carry out their activities. But after that, the separatists on the other hand said, we don't want to see any vehicles circulating. No circulation of vehicles. And some of them who have tried to move around with their vehicles saw their vehicles being burnt down. And the last was a vehicle belonging to a person with impairment who depended on that vehicle to survive. So when you look at this situation in which the administration is giving an injunction on the other hand, and the separatist fighters are giving an injunction on this other side, and we know that it is the authorities who have the responsibility to protect the citizens and not the armed fighters. What is your opinion about the way government is going about this issue, taking decisions and to counter separatist activities and putting the population at risk at the same time? The population they are expected to protect.
As a matter of fact, I think all the activities that are being carried by separatists, for me, is all, for now, especially of recent, is all about madness. Because I can't understand how you may be claiming to protect or fight for the interests of your own people, and you are instead the one maybe causing them more harm or killing them. So to me, I see those activities as pure madness. On the other side now, maybe government is not taking the appropriate measures to address this crisis. You see, the way a conflict starts, you may only know the day that it starts, but to know the day is going to end is very, very difficult. And in the very early days of this conflict, I was one of those voices who said that the turning point of bringing in arms into these revendications was the worst option that the government could put in place, because immediately people start having appetite or expertise in manipulating ammunitions, different from the regular army, who, for example, have gone through a proper training, maybe some human rights principles or school or studies. It will not be the same approach with separatists, that maybe these are maybe helpless boys in the quarters who could not have job, who have just decided to take up arms, and today they are using it against their own people. To me, I think 8 years already is more than enough time. And the activities of separatists, whether some are for or against, to me, I don't think the injunctions they are putting today, or the injunctions that have been put in, is helping in any way the cause of the Anglophone people. Let's take the issue of the ghost town. You have declared ghost towns every Monday. People are not going to school. How is that measure or that injunction helping the population? I think, to me, it's producing no fruits. Today you decide to put an injunction on vehicles. Who will suffer is still the same population who need it to move around their various activities. Now, government on the other side, maybe in trying to curb the activities of the separatists, maybe it's not going the appropriate way. whether we like it or not, we can only come or have a peace we can only have peace in those two regions if we agree to look for avenues of a settlement agreement, because we cannot say at this point in time that we don't know the persons or the protagonists in this armed conflict. I think if the fractions were serious in finding lasting solutions or breaking a peace agreement, I think they should have already identified who are the persons to dialogue or initiate any conversation or dialogue, so that we can come to an end of this. For me, my opinion is that we are the ones suffering here back home, and if people are still obeying instructions of people who are in America or in Europe, it's being foolish. Because
and we are now hearing about another instruction coming from the diaspora, asking taxi drivers and owners to paint their vehicles blue, black. Blue, white, rather. Blue, white in the colors of the Amazonian flag.
No, that's still another insane injunction. How is that going to help the struggle? If you put injunctions that people have to paint their taxis in the colors that maybe you want, that's not the solution. How is that helping? Instead, the people in the diaspora should tell us that, okay, they are maybe sending in huge amounts of money maybe to repair the roads or to repair the hospitals that were burnt or the schools that were burnt. Yes, those are the type of things that we want to get to listen from the diaspora. But you cannot be sending out information or putting injunction that people have to paint their taxes. How is that helping the struggle? To me, I think it makes no sense. And government too should be able to look for avenues to maybe reinforce security within the people who are fighting for security, to make sure that at least the people are protected. Because if the administrators themselves are the ones heeding to those injunctions in the first place, because when you move around the cities of Bamenda today, you will notice that even government vehicles, they don't have number plates.
The CIMAC number
they don't have, yes, they don't have the CIMAC number plates. You attempted to believe that. So does it mean that even the administrators themselves are following the instructions or the injunctions of the separatists? Then there's a serious problem. So the administration should preach by example, to say, no, we cannot be here, we have control of the country and people are giving us injunctions. Monday, which is normally declared a ghost town, you will see within the town of Bamenda it goes down, but when you go to opposition, you see maybe administration is functioning there. So I think there's a serious problem, and if we see that for 8 years the solutions that we have struggled to put in place are not working, I think it's high time to change the strategy. Now, peace has no price for me.
The question that pops out of what you just say now is, are separatist fighters now dictating the law in those two regions? Monday goes down, everybody is respecting. Lockdown, everybody is respecting. No CIMAC number plate, everybody is respecting. And so on and so forth. Then we see that even in some areas of those two regions, the administrators are not on city. They are either visiting, coming from elsewhere, safer zones to come and visit. In some areas, they are completely absent because of the situation.
You know, fear has carried so many people in this struggle because the way the separatists operate, they are not professional. So many persons are afraid, especially when on the other side, government is not able to secure their security. When they say it goes down, everybody is just being afraid. But I think we can go above that. If on that day, like all the other days, security maybe is being observed properly and citizens take it upon themselves to rise above their fear, I'm sure that we'll not still have what they call ghost town. Because on other days,
take it upon themselves to rise above their fears?
It's possible.
How?
Because the person who gives the injunction is not in Cameroon. The person who gives the injunction, for example, is in America.
But those executing are
but now the people who are executing
vehicles burnt down in Boya.
Good.
Because of
the people
failure to respect ghost town and this kind of injunction.
In that situation now, the administration should be able to put in necessary security to make sure that those excesses are not being carried by those separatists. When they are burning the cars, for example, where is the security? The population will want to rise above fear, but now they are afraid because they know that, okay, if we decide to violate it, the security will not be guaranteed, and that's why they stay in their fear. But if government could reassure them that, okay, if you come out, for example,
they have been given the assurance, but on the ground, it's not.
Then it's something to question about the security challenges. Then maybe security is not being well.
The Minister of Territorial Administration and the others have been saying that the situation is under control. The security and defense forces are in charge. They are controlling the situation.
No,
then these things are happening. Sometimes not far from the military camps.
Then we are failing in the security control, because government cannot be claiming that the security is under control or is being managed, and we have records of burning of cars, for example, people being killed, especially within the capital cities. We can understand maybe within the remote areas that, okay, maybe government cannot have so much access or secure everybody there, but within the town like Bamenda, for example, what explains that there should be ghost town in Bamenda when you have a military camp there, you have police, you have gendarmes, and maybe then if government is not able to, if government is failing in assuring security, then government should be the problem and not the people, because the people want to overcome the fear and go about their activities, but they will not have the necessary guarantee that security will be assured.
And now with these injunctions coming from both sides, the economic consequences are also there. With, for example, when you tell the bike riders don't move around from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., maybe that is the period during which many of the bikers are actually working, actually going around to be able to put together 100 francs CAV to make something to put food on the table.
It is true that the crisis has caused a lot of economic
security, however.
The crisis has put a lot of economic hardship on the people. You need to visit those regions to see how people are living. You see, someone may be having his bike, that's his main activity, and when you tell him or you put an injunction that he should not circulate maybe between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., how do you think
6 p.m. and 6 a.m.
Good. How do you think he's going to feed his family? There's a problem. So government, to me, should, if government was serious in looking for lasting solution on this crisis, I'm not sure that we shall be counting till 8 years today. We have left or allowed the crisis to degenerate in taking other phases from peace, plant, armed conflict, explosives, and today the civilian population who are caught between injunctions of the administrator, injunctions of separatists, and today the whole place is in chaos, total chaos. So
we even have grenades coming into play. The last attack in the Pierre Palo in Bamenda was the use of the grenade that wounded about 40%.
So I think this is another weakening call that government, who has the upper responsibility of bringing lasting peace to those regions, should maybe not sleep again, maybe try to look for other avenues and see how is it possible for this to be resolved. I know the time it has taken already has complicated the situation, but I am still very confident and certain that no, if there was that genuine will from the administration, I think a solution could be found. You know, people, you know, to reach at a peace agreement, there are some sacrifices that or concessions that parties have to make, and I believe that government has not done enough. If government actually wanted to resolve this crisis, we have several persons who are arrested, who are in prison. Government started by releasing some government could decide today to release everybody, for example, I am sure that by so doing, is going to even maybe send a message to those separatists that, see, government is trying to do something. But when government decides and stays on its own place, the separatists, to me, I don't consider them because they represent a little fraction. The person who was supposed to be putting in place actions that will guarantee everybody is on the part of the government, because the separatists don't represent anything to me. They just need to look for that appropriate avenue to be able to have control over those who are giving those instructions. Those on the ground, for example, we have recorded several deaths. I'm not sure that they can still count their numbers as in the early beginnings of this crisis. No, maybe there are some very few who are maybe there having arms and carrying out these excesses. Government should be able to contain them, and it can only start by government coming out maybe with strong resolutions that, okay, we have been into war for 8 years, we have struggled to fight these people or fight or try to kill all the separatists, but it has not been possible, and we discovered that even the orders or the injunctions we give, it is instead the population that are suffering. Then, as of today, this is what we want to do. Take a measure like releasing people, for example, is going to put in an atmosphere of confidence. The other side maybe will say, okay, since you have done this, we think that this is how we can approach it. Then meet those people and then try to see which kind of peace agreement we can reach at, and we spare the civilian population all the hardship and suffering they are going through. When you go to Bamenda, you think that you are maybe in one kind of Afghanistan or Baghdad kind of territory, because every place is deserted. People are not there. The roads are not there. The economic nature of the town is not moving because people are afraid. In a week, maybe people open their shops maybe 2 or 3 days. What about the other days? So how is the fight or the struggle helping the population? So I am not sure that even those who are living there are happy with the situation that they are living in. So no, I'm not sure that this crisis, there's any person, be it a separatist or be it the military, who is happy about the situation. So I think it's high time we try to look for an avenue to bring out the peace we want.
Recently, the Social Democratic Front, through its national chairman, Honorable O.C. Joshua, said if they take over power, you're not a militant of the SDF, but I want us to look at this idea put forth by the SDF that if they come to power, they can solve this problem in 100 days. This problem can be resolved in 100 days. Is that feasible?
Very feasible. Very feasible. It all depends on a goodwill leadership who is able to identify or make a proper diagnosis of the problem, know who are the protagonists, and know the kind of resolutions it can take to appease the minds of the parties. And 100 days to me, I think is possible. Like I was already telling you that to settle this kind of conflicts, you have to make some compromise, whether you like it or not. The government must be able to act, to maybe to say, okay, we are ready to leave this. The separatists on the other side should be able to say, okay, we are also ready to forego this. And from there now, the parties now will maybe come on the table and talk, listen to each other and see if the problem, for example, is the form of the state as was in the beginning. Then we should look into it rather than trying to impose something on people, because the more you want to impose, that's the more the conflict escalates. To me, I believe that if there is any genuine leadership who wants to resolve this problem, it is true that it will not still be as easy as it all started, but it does not mean that it is impossible. I still believe that if there is a genuine leadership who wants to resolve the problem, then it's possible. It's possible.
There is a former Nigerian Bar Association president who said that there's a wrong assumption talking about the case of the Biafran War, which is synonymous to the secession war in Cameroon, said that there is a wrong assumption that is generally put forth by the authorities that we are together. That is to say that we are united, assuming that all of us, I mean the citizens of the country, want to be united, not finding out from them if they want to be one. And he went further to say that it is not sacrosanct that we must be one, because being one and killing people in this way, kidnapping people, destroying properties, it serves no essence.
Well, to me, I believe that together we are strong, and I think that we could also maybe try to go by way of a referendum, because today we have divergent opinions. You cannot really tell for now where the balance weighs. Maybe a referendum could be called, and the opinions of people are being gathered, and I'm sure that if we go by that, we'll be able to know exactly what are the true intentions or the true mindsets of all the actors, those who are maybe for a unitary system, those who are for a separatist system, or those who are for a federalist system. It's only through a referendum that we will be able to censor exactly what the people want, and from there, that's where you can now decide to roll on. But if you just, the way we are just doing things, that we want to
on assumptions.
Yes, we are assuming, exactly. We are assuming that everybody is happy. We are assuming that we are together, and we pose some actions that at times leave someone to ask himself that, do I actually believe here? Does it mean that being together, does it mean that being together, it should not be assimilated or compared to also eating together? Because we have instances where you say, no, we are together, but when it comes to maybe eating together, we are not able to eat together, we are excluded. So all this put in place should give us an opportunity to maybe throw a census to the population that, okay, today Cameroonians are more than 30 million, for example. Let's censor the various opinions and see exactly whether there's a possibility for us to rewrite the history or start from a new foot.
Should that referendum not be focused specifically on the people of the northwest and southwest regions, to be able to know if they want to be together, they want to remain in the union with La Republique, former La Republique to come?
The truth is that we have had a lot of cultural mixed up, that we cannot only say we have a good majority too of Anglophones in the French-speaking countries, in French-speaking regions today. If you just want to limit yourself maybe just on these two regions, forgetting that maybe in Douala you have a huge number of Anglophones that are living there, that you will not want to count or censor their opinion, then I think we will be faulting on the whole issue.
No, I'm talking about Anglophones from those two regions, whether they are in the north, in the east, in the south, in the center, in the littoral, but all the Anglophones from those two regions.
No, but don't also...
because that's where there's a problem. They're the ones saying, okay, I'm in a fraction, saying, okay, we want our independence, we want our country. That's what a fraction is saying, a section of the population from those two regions who are at the extreme, bent on having a separate nation.
No, I think if it is true that this should be a question that should be posed maybe to experts in conflict resolutions, because I believe that if we want to go by that way, we will exclude so many people, because within the Northwest and Southwest also you have Francophones who are there. Maybe some of them maybe will not consider themselves to be Anglophones and may decide not to take part. And I also believe that there's a great majority of Anglophones also in the French regions of Cameroon that want to participate in that kind of exercise. To me, I think it's not only the English parts that are suffering. We also have some crises maybe in the north or in other regions who are also maybe agitating themselves on maybe the form in which they have been, the form of the state. if it could go by a general census or a general referendum, I am sure that we will be able to have the voice of the majority. But if we just want to focus on Northwest and Southwest, I'm not sure we'll be able to have a good result, because some of those Anglophones are in the French regions and some of the Francophones also are in the English regions.
But Barrister, is that not the kind of generalization that gave the major national dialogue a connotation that was not very much acceptable to many observers, who thought that it was transformed into a mixture of everything except the focus, that it was supposed to focus on the issue of the conflict between Anglophones and the governing mechanism, government. But it brought on the table everything, a mixture of everything, and at the end of the day produced a result that resembled the nature of the meeting, and which today seem not to reflect the aspirations of many from those two regions. Why? Reason why the implementation of the resolutions are going on the ground. The regions have been put in place, the regional assemblies in the two regions and the councils in the other 8 regions, and a lot of things have been done on the ground. There's a whole catalogue of what has been done, but nothing practically has changed. They see the war.
That's why I was saying that we have to maybe invite the expertise of someone who is well versed in trying to conflict resolutions, because you see, if you decide, except you go to those two regions and make a call, for example, that okay, all the sons and daughters of those two regions should come back home, and those who do not consider themselves to be natives, or I don't know, to hail from those regions should leave, you see that it will be a very difficult exercise to have everybody just gathered in those two regions and try to carry out the referendum. To me, I believe that if we want to go in the kind of section phase that you are saying, then maybe the powers that be should only maybe address those two regions, maybe hold dialogues in those two regions. But saying that we want to carry maybe a census, I'm sure we'll exclude some people. Maybe within those two regions we can hold maybe a dialogue just for the two regions, and then maybe listen to the various opinions, not actually a census, and then from there pick up which majority, what the majority of the opinions are saying, and from there maybe try to put up a roadmap that will be followed to make sure that at least what they are asking is being applied and implemented.
All right, let's take a look at what the newspapers reported this week in Cameroon. This is the press review. The Guardian Post exclaims Amber madness reaches incurable level in the armed conflict raging in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The paper says the recent decision by the so-called Anglophone freedom fighters turned oppressors that all taxis plying the streets of Bamenda must be painted in the blue and white colors of the separatist flag further emboldens the widely held opinion that the self-styled liberators don't care about the well-being of the Anglophones, whose interests they claim to be fighting for. The Dawn reports that Kumba City Mayor Gregory Mewaner cracks down on illegal medication sale. The Sun, House Speaker Kavayege Jibril warns politicians against post-election chaos, referring to purported architects of chaos as owls who have nothing to offer. According to him, they are displaying weakness. The Horizon questions a revelation of an alleged plot to disqualify the national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Professor Maurice Kamto. Dieudonné Esomba, noted TV consultant, claims President Paul Biya will table a bill modifying the electoral calendar, scheduling the presidential election before the legislative elections. Legal mind Christian Njomo Ntimbani, says if adopted, the bill will be legally ineffective. The Guardian Post reports that the Douala Port Authority is questioning the objectivity of the World Bank's performance ranking that puts the container terminal of the Douala Seaport at the 370th position out of 405. On the front page of Newswatch, the Port Authority denounces flaws in the World Bank's Container Port Terminal Performance Ranking Report. According to The Voice, international anti-corruption crusader Barrister Kerimuna blasts government's corruption and excuses in the World Bank's port ranking. Eden Global Fund nails Cameroon on management lapses, and government suffers drop in funding on AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria. Another issue of the Guardian Post projects the World Bank's grant of 30 billion francs CFA for roads in Bamenda. Thank you for staying with us. Barrister TAMFU Richard, the Guardian Post says that the recent incidents, particularly in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, uphold the opinion that those who are fighting for independence, the civilians who've carried guns fighting for independence, do not have the interests of the same people they claim to be fighting for.
Yeah, I share the same opinion, because you cannot say that you want to liberate your own people and you are the ones killing them. This madness. How do you want to liberate, or how do you want to get a separate state when you have killed all your inhabitants or all your citizens? So something is not correct somewhere. To me, we could achieve, when you want to reivindicate something, there are other means of getting it, and the way of arms is the worst scenario, or the worst thing to do. The separatists could have a reivindicate. Yes, they could maybe channel their problem maybe through maybe political parties, or having movements who could advocate for what they want. But taking up arms, which today we are seeing that the arms that they are taking is not even to fight the opposite side that they claim to fight, but they have instead taken those arms to fight their own people, inflicting injunctions to create difficult living conditions for their own citizens. Then you cannot come today and say you are fighting for their own people. No, instead they have, I don't even know if they are fighting for their own selves, because if you are fighting for your own self, then you will not be able to burn down infrastructures, you will not be able to restrict people from going to school. So you see that in a nutshell, the armed conflict within the separatists who are saying that they want to have an independent state is turning around madness. To me, let the separatists understand that obtaining what they want through arms cannot work. They could drop down their arms and look for maybe any diplomatic means or any other way to make sure that their voice is being heard. But through the arms, to me, I don't believe that it was the proper way to go about it. And today, all of us are seeing that it has not helped anything. They themselves, they have lost so many of their fighters. The citizens they want to protect today are fed up with the hardship being inflicted on them. I don't think somebody is still giving a listening ear to them.
But there's an issue about what is qualified as enemies in the house, referring to those who are qualified as blacklegs, those who seem to be playing some kind of double game, taking information from one side to the other side, and things like that. These are some of the things that come up when this issue of fighting against the very people you're claiming to protect comes up?
It's true that you cannot control all the scenarios in an armed conflict. You always have this kind of behaviors. Maybe where people are forced to behave the way they are behaving today, maybe because they want to get some economic gains out of it. We know very well that as this armed conflict is perduring, so many people are making a lot of economic gain, be it from the separatist fighters themselves, because today majority of them will kidnap people that they believe they have maybe brothers or sister or family relations outside who can send them money. They will kidnap you and ask for ransom. On the other side now, you also have some government security agents who have decided maybe to sell, who decided to sell ammunitions to separatists to have money. So these are the consequences of any armed conflict. You have this kind of persons, this kind of behavior. People will be tagged as blackleg because they are not in support of what you want. You cannot force them to support you, and when they decide to go and maybe report, you tag them blackleg. So I'm not surprised by what is happening. I'm just decrying the fact that we had the possibility of not reaching to this level, but we refused to look at a more easy or simple way to put forward our revendications. And when we took up the armed way, I just understood that we will still have to struggle with this fight for several years, because on the other side we have a government that is not giving us a listening ear. How do you explain that for 8 years that there have been a conflict in the two regions of Cameroon? The president of the republic has never visited those regions. The president of the republic has not taken pain to actually address what is happening in those two regions. It's just to tell you that if we continue to rely on the present leadership that we have to resolve this crisis, then we are deceiving ourselves. To me, I believe that this government is not able or has failed to resolve this crisis, and that we should look for another government or a new face to come that will be able to listen or touch the face, the problem, have first-hand feeling of the conflict that is going in the northwest and southwest. And I think that if we do so,
and while the elephants are fighting, the grass is suffering. And we're talking here about the population, the inhabitants, the Cameroonians hailing from those two regions, those who are in the regions and those who are out of the regions, are all suffering the consequences, and the entire nation. Now I want to look at a specific group of persons who are now suffering very serious consequences of this crisis. I'm talking about internally displaced persons. Many of them are living in poor, precarious, and very horrible situations here in Douala and in other parts of the country. And we went to Makepe Misoke to see where many children and adults are living in very difficult conditions. Many have died because of difficulties. Many are sick and unable to treat themselves. Their stories are quite pathetic and heartbreaking. For me, Armstrong Sander has this special story in this edition of The Inside.
This is a bed, and here is what serves as a bedroom for Sunday Edwin and 10 others in Makepe Misoke in the Douala 5 subdivision. They are among the latest victims displaced from the conflict-hit northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon.
The tried to hold me to join them, so I refused because of how I was seeing how they are killing my friends, my family members, so I decided to run and come to Douala.
Today, he is sick and lying down with malaria, and when we met him at 2 p.m., he had not eaten nor taken medication.
No, today I'm not feeling fine because of mosquitoes. Too much mosquito here. Yes. So I've been in park for 3 days. Yes. So that's when I saw some 2 girls. So one was selling carrot, one was selling jalatu. Okay, so I now called them because they were speaking English. I told them that I did not have anywhere to go. So they told me that there's one father here in Makepe that have refugee camp, that they were still living here.
He is not the only one with a tear-provoking story. Young Clinton ran away with his mother, who is now missing.
There was a friend of my mother that was already here that facilitated her to arrive here. And since 2 years my mother left, we have never heard about her.
They and over 300 registered others live under the shelter of this man. His name is Chief Dr. Joseph Mufo, a jurist and a traditional ruler who has been hosting internally displaced persons since 2017.
It's not easy to feed them because we eat 80 kilograms of rice in 5 days here. Not to talk of groundnut, not to talk of gari, not to talk of corn, not to talk of oil. Here you can see they are managing to cook a small rice for this one that is sick. It's not easy here to manage them because we don't have extra pot to give them to be using down valley here. That's why the pots are very small to cook. And the others, when they come back, we give them gari for them to suck and sugar. That's how we do.
With extremely limited personal means and support, he fears that their living conditions might grow more precarious.
You can see it's chairs. I've fabricated myself. These are my personal effort they are not even mattresses for them to even throw on the floor. This effort that you see, the first decking, the foundation was made by Father Lado Lodovic with the effort of late Pa Christian Cardinal Tumi, may the soul rest in peace. And equally, some of the reverend fathers are brought in Spain, in Canada, but since Pa Cardinal Tumi died, things have been blocked like this.
Most of these internally displaced persons, especially the very young ones, have lost track of their families, hence no hopes and plans to return soon. Their wish is to have sustainable assistance from people of goodwill while praying for a return to normalcy in the English-speaking regions of the country.
Thank you for me, Armstrong Sander. Cheers. Provoking stories there. Barrister TAMFU, Richard. Listen to one of the IDP saying their mother disappeared, I think he said 2 years ago. Until now, they have no news about their mother.
It's very pathetic, Mr. Babila. At times when you listen to them, you really ask yourself whether which kind of help you can do, but you can bring to them. But when you also see that you are helpless, I think that the only place to look up to is maybe to the government. The government has the means. The government can put a smile on their faces if they actually want to. Because you see some actions of the government. For example, somebody will put up a budget to buy a car, 100 million. You see that these people, what they need, or those basic needs they want, maybe with 20 million, you can solve their problems. But when you have a government who is irresponsible, a government where the leader has never visited any of these regions since the war started, you have a ministry of maybe social affairs that is not informed about this, or is informed and behaves to be having deaf ears on this kind of cases. You only have your eyes or the regrets to bear. To me, the situation is deplorable, and I think that a platform like yours, like this program, and also some of us who carried our voices, when we have the opportunity, we should call on the government to take up their responsibility. These people do not deserve to undergo what they are going through today. I think that it's government responsibility to make sure that any citizen that is living in a nation like ours should be able to have a place to sleep should be
the right to dignity,
exactly,
the right to potable water and every other thing
basic necessities
that is necessary for a comfortable living condition are fundamental, enshrined in national and international legal instruments, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, duly signed and ratified by Cameroon. Let's take some interviews and we'll be right back in some few minutes. Interviews of the week.
It is difficult. You can see there's no way to iron. And now we don't have light. You don't walk. You do like the manual way I'm doing it. You need to iron. Some of the people who are able to connect from other transformers, they have collected their money and to connect. And we don't have that transformer around us. It is difficult for us.
ID card, that was 2019. Till now, nothing has yet shown. I've moved left and right every day to the police station. Nothing. Have we abandoned the ID card section or department, or I don't know. If I'm having any connection with my business partner, I am unable even to take a check from him and go to bank and collect money. At times you travel like this, along the way they will train you up as if you are just a child. Are they even renewing it? Nothing. Where you just go there, they just go in the box, they touch one or two old ID card. The next answer that they will give you is to put stamp on the paper and give you.
Four times, more than 4 times. With your card, it's not easy to exchange with client or customer or bank to sign a contract or anywhere. No, it's not possible.
I think at this point, this critical point in the history of our country, with the 92-year-old president, with the government totally championed in corruption, a government which is divided. We have never had that before. We used to have the opposition divided, but now we have a government that's divided. So the government is so vulnerable. This nation was built on a partnership. The partnership between two nations, an Anglophone nation and a Francophone nation. It came into being because of the guarantee that they were equal partners. And that guarantee has been destroyed. We need to build a new basis. So that's what I think, that for an Anglophone leader, we have a better chance. Luckily for us, even the Francophones are saying that it is time for them. It is true that a lot of them are swept with this Francophobia, which is coming all the way from West Africa.
Welcome back. We are wrapping up this edition of The Inside with this issue about the national identity card that has become a very rare commodity in Cameroon, with persons who have applied and paid money for this document and have not had it for more than 5 years, some even 6 years. And now another issue is the announced increase in the cost of obtaining that identity card, that jumps from a little above 2,000 francs CFA to over 10,000 and even 15,000 francs CFA, looking at all the requirements and the documents that are supposed to be obtained by any Cameroonian who desires to obtain an ID card. Barrister TAMFU Richard, what do you think about this ordinance of the head of state increasing the cost of stamps and increasing the cost of obtaining an ID card?
It's really a failure and shameful for our country, because do you even know that as a citizen, we don't have an ID card, you are considered a criminal, 6 months imprisonment. So meaning that if you are not able to have that money to obtain an ID card, then automatically the doors of the prisons are open to you. In other countries, we see that identification is even free. What does it cost our government to deliver an identification document to its citizens for free? That should be a state responsibility. So does it mean that if I'm a poor man, I'm not able to have that amount of money, then I'm a potential prisoner without committing any offense? So there's a problem. And even when you look at the minimum wage salary in this country, which is around 42,000 francs, if you have to disburse 15,000 francs to obtain an ID card, you see that we have reached the peak of irresponsibility. And I don't think that I even ask myself if some of these leaders, they even visit some of these other countries and see how things are being done there. How can you impose or levy this kind of, you even triple the amount, because at first it was 2,800 for the stamp. Now it has gone to 10,000 francs. So it has even tripled the amount.
And the question, before we go, Barrister, is that all of these things are happening and Cameroonians are silent, Cameroonians are quiet. Whereas we saw recently in Kenya, where a new and bold generation of young people came out on the streets and compelled the government of William Ruto to move back on some of the unpopular tax proposals that were on the table.
I think this is the kind of consciousness that we are still lacking in, because Cameroonians are too dormant. We have accepted to be crushed upon by the leadership that be. When you even want to revindicate, it is still the same Cameroonian brother will tell you that no, I'm afraid. I want to see my children live. How can you have normal citizens of our generation, youths, calling on somebody who is 98 years to be their next leadership again for 7 years? Is that not being insane or being stupid? So to me, I think the problems of this country, we are the cause of it. And I think that until Cameroonians regain their consciousness and take up to their responsibility, then we'll be able to have an avenue of resolution. But if we continue to put fear, we don't engage into the civic life of the country, we allow people to decide for us, then I think we only have time to cry for ourselves.
All right, Barrister TAMFU Richard, member of the Cameroon and Nigerian Bar Associations, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the insights you've shared with us in this edition of the program.
The pleasure is all mine, Mr. Babla. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. You can follow the program on our social media handles on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also follow the rebroadcast of the program on Friday at 5 p.m. Thank you. Do stay with us if you can.